now I'm up, and I've had enough of this shit.
Last week, Morgan finally told the truth. After years of silence, fear, and survival, she disclosed the abuse she endured throughout her childhood. And the system meant to protect children closed the case. But silence has a breaking point. And somewhere down a quiet country road, a young woman who had spent years surviving finally decided she could no longer carry the weight of everyone else's secrets. This is part 2 of Morgan's story. By the early 90s, child abuse investigations often looked very different than they do today. Trauma-informed interviewing was limited. Survivors were frequently questioned in ways that sometimes felt intimidating rather than protective. And many victims walked away feeling even more alone than when they entered the room. But for Morgan, something had shifted. She had crossed a line internally that could not be uncrossed.
It took quite a while to figure out how to do what I needed to do for the next steps, but I ultimately ended up at the state police for days upon days and hours upon hours, detailing and describing as much as I could reveal, because I was past a certain limit for statute of limitations, so the first 4 years were inadmissible. And so basically I started telling bits and pieces of what I could from the age of 12 on. I had to sit in a room with a 200-pound, 6'5" state policeman and answer questions about his genitalia. I've blocked most of it out because it was so traumatic.
At the time, Michigan's laws surrounding childhood sexual abuse cases were far more restrictive than they are today. Prosecutors could only pursue charges that still fell within the statute of limitations, which meant much of Morgan's childhood abuse would never officially enter the courtroom. There was no forensic evidence, no recordings, no social media trial, just testimony, memory, trauma, and one young woman willing to speak anyway.
After the preliminary hearing, they knocked it down to 4 counts because of statute of limitations again came into play. So those 2 of those counts were taken away, so he was charged with 4 and ended up being bound over for trial and on 4 counts of first-degree criminal sexual conduct. And I was the only one that testified to what happened in that house. It was about a weeks-long trial, and I had to sit all the time when I was testifying. It was the only time I was in the courtroom, but I testified for about 2.5 days. I was sitting less than 10 feet from him, and then they had me drawing on a chalkboard where I was 5 feet from him, and I was shaking so bad I couldn't even hold the chalk. And I couldn't speak up above a whisper. I was just deathly terrified.
Courtrooms are designed around evidence, procedure, timelines, rules, but trauma rarely follows clean lines. And for many survivors, testifying can feel like surviving the experience all over again.
We don't take victims' feelings into account when we're doing this in these type of situations and in the justice system. It doesn't take the victim into account at all. It pretends that it does, but I have to say it really doesn't. And it breaks my heart because I didn't do anything wrong, but yet I was being treated as though my feelings and thoughts didn't have any matter in the situation. And it was tough to endure, but like I said, I was not in the courtroom other than when I was testifying, so I just sat in a small room with my parents the whole time.
And eventually, verdict day arrived. Morgan had a choice to make: sit inside the courtroom or wait somewhere else while 12 strangers decided whether they believed her.
The jury took only about 3 hours to deliberate and find that he was not the one telling the truth in the entire situation. I thought long and hard about whether I wanted to be in the courtroom or not. And ultimately I decided, at this point it's out of my hands. It doesn't matter. I have no say in what they decide. And honestly, if they came back not guilty, I don't think I could be in the room. And so I chose to take my friends back to the airport. And another close friend went with me, and on the way back, it was just when cell phones were being introduced into vehicles, my phone rang, and it was my mom saying that they came back with the verdict.
You won! She's guilty!
We'll be right back. This episode is brought to you by Liminal Luna, a mindful journaling app created for people moving through life's in-between seasons, grief, relationship changes, career shifts, or simply feeling disconnected from who you used to be. Inspired by the phases of the moon, Liminal Luna offers gentle, guided reflections designed to help you slow down, listen inward, and navigate change with a little more clarity and compassion. Because sometimes you're not lost, you're just in the liminal phase. You can learn more and start for free at liminalluna.com. In 1992, Thomas Minerick was convicted on 3 counts of criminal sexual conduct in the first degree involving minors under 13. He was sentenced to 75 years in prison. Now, from the outside, a conviction like that sounds like closure, justice, and possibly freedom. But trauma rarely resolves that neatly. So I asked Morgan if she finally felt free.
Oh no. I was a very, very tortured soul. I was just starting the journey of healing, and I hadn't really scratched the surface yet. It's taken 30 years to even get some semblance of a normalcy. I do the best I can.
What happened to Morgan did not end in the courtroom. In many ways, it was only the beginning of learning how to live afterwards.
They were teaching me how to live with the aftermath of what happened, so all of your nightmares and your flashbacks, your self-confidence, the shame, and they would do that in different forms. So like the ropes and challenge course was really to build your confidence and to rely on others and to ask for help, which are things that survivors are very poor at. We would work together as a community, and then we would work individually with a psychologist, a psychiatrist, and a social worker every day. And then the group therapy, we really weren't encouraged to talk about what happened to us, but just how we feel about ourselves. Just kind of get a sense of how other survivors processed it and how they felt. When you combined all that in like an 8-9 hour day, or 6 weeks was the longest stay I did. Also, being in an inpatient setting, I felt completely comfortable to unload, unravel, and completely come unglued in a safe setting. Because if you think about doing therapy with a therapist, you're there for 45, 50 minutes. You're trying to unload some of the worst stuff possible, package it back up, and then go on your way until the next week. And hopefully you'll restabilize in between the two. And so just doing cognitive behavior therapy in an outpatient basis for that level of trauma is kind of difficult. And I've done ART therapy, I've done EMDR therapy, and those are, I think, more beneficial than cognitive behavioral therapy, just because of the reason I said a second ago, is that you're supposed to unpack the worst of your life in 45 minutes and then go about your day and your week until your next session, and it's just not realistic. And so some of these other types of therapies that they've have found to be really beneficial, especially EMDR. I did do that for quite a while. And I've also gotten to a point where I was experiencing rage, and I didn't know how to deal with it. I didn't know how to control it. I didn't know what was setting it off. I was never really an angry person. And all of a sudden I'm throwing vacuum cleaners through windows, and I'm like, what the hell is this? And I think I reached a level of comfort in my own life and healing that reared its ugly head, because it's like, okay, you've done all of this work, you've dealt with the shame, you've dealt with the trauma. Well, now here, look what we need to deal with, because rage is going to be incorporated in sexual abuse or child abuse, trauma, whatever you experience. Somewhere in there, you're going to have angry feelings about it. I just stored mine. When I got to a really comfortable place in my life where I felt loved, safe, heard, secured, it just it came flying out. And so for that, I went through ketamine therapy.
Over the next 3 decades, Morgan would spend much of her life trying to understand what trauma had done, not only to her memories, but to her nervous system, her relationships, and even her body. She would go through intensive outpatient therapy, often called an IOP, a structured treatment program for people needing deeper mental health support. She also underwent EMDR therapy, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, a trauma therapy designed to help the brain safely process overwhelming memories that often remain trapped inside the nervous system. She explored other therapies also, like art therapy, ropes and challenges courses, and eventually she explored ketamine therapy, searching for relief from the rage, fear, hypervigilance, and emotional exhaustion that severe childhood trauma can leave behind. But healing from complex trauma is rarely easy. And for Morgan, her body continued carrying the story. Trauma does not always leave when the abuse ends. Sometimes it settles into the body quietly for decades.
For quite a while, I was doing extremely well in all areas of my life, and that felt wonderful. But about 2 years ago in June, that rug got pulled out from underneath me. I live on a lot of property and have horses, and I was trying to hook up an apparatus to the tractor, and I got frustrated and wasn't able to. Probably had a little temper tantrum and decided, oh, I'm just going to go home, and I started walking home. And it was June, and it was pretty hot, and I had been to the doctor the day before, and I was at the pulmonologist because with my throat and my esophagus, I have constant issues with aspirating food. And he's like, you've got aspiration pneumonia, don't you? And I'm like, no. I mean, I have it so often, I just don't even pay attention until I get really sick. But I said, no, I didn't. And he's like, yeah, you've got pneumonia again. I left and went and filled antibiotics. The next day, I completely forgot that I'm even on antibiotics and that I'm sick because I'm just so used to it. Got mad, started walking home, got halfway home, and I'm like, uh-oh, I think I'm in trouble. And I collapsed in the field. I had left my German Shepherd in the yard, and she somehow knew that I was in trouble, and she went absolutely nuts, and to the point where it got my neighbor, and she showed my neighbor where I was, and he called 911, and by the time they got to me, I wasn't breathing. I was in the hospital for quite a while, but they said, no more eating. Your lungs are so damaged, and you've got pneumonia again, and all you do is aspirate and get pneumonia. No more eating. It's already on like a 80% liquid diet.
Even years later, Morgan continued facing medical complications connecting to the abuse she endured as a child. Multiple surgeries, damage to her throat and abdomen, feeding tubes, chronic health struggles, the kind of realities many survivors quietly carry long after the visible parts of their story are over. And in 2012, there would be another fracture. After serving roughly 20 years of a 75-year sentence, Morgan learned her perpetrator was being released on parole. For many survivors, healing is not one event. It's a lifetime of adapting to new waves of grief, fear, memories, and survival. And somewhere inside all of that, Morgan also built a life. College, work, motherhood, relationships, love. She first earned her associate's degree, and then she earned a bachelor's degree in gerontology. She built a career helping others. She eventually found peace and safety with the woman who is now her wife. And through all of it, she kept writing.
I am in this situation that I had no part of creating. And it seemed so unjust that it drives me to help other people not have to experience this. So many children are suffering in silence unnecessarily because we're too uncomfortable to talk about this. One of the things I really want for society to focus on is most scenarios where children are abused, they are groomed. And we used to teach, if you've ever been touched inappropriately or if anyone touched you and it made you uncomfortable, make sure you tell an adult. Well, once children are touched inappropriately, the whole game changes. And they are basically taught and groomed to be silenced and ashamed. And so they don't speak up. And I would rather see us teaching children what that process looks like before anything happens. And that what do you do if your coach is all of a sudden paying a whole lot of attention to you specifically? Or what happens if your uncle is asking you to keep secrets? And start teaching children about grooming so they're not in this situation to begin with. Parents are naive to that. And that would be one of my messages to parents, is their parents are very naive to the fact that their children are at risk. I have been just absolutely determined to help other survivors not have to experience this extent of trauma. Trying to connect with survivors, also trying to connect with legislators so we can get some of the laws changed on the statute of limitations that would allow survivors to sue civilly, because I have no recourse for what happened to me from a legal standpoint to say somebody needs to be held accountable.
Morgan has spent years advocating for survivors, pushing for legislative changes, and helping people better understand how abuse often hides in plain sight. And after hours and hours of conversations together, one thing became incredibly clear to me. Morgan is not trying to rewrite what happened to her. She is trying to understand how to live beside it. If you've been moved by Morgan's story today, I hope you'll take a moment to follow the show, leave a review, or share this episode with someone you trust. Stories like this remind people they're not alone, and that matters more than any of us realize.
That the damage that is done when children are sexually abused is really permanent. I hate to say that. No offense to any therapists or counselors, but it is a permanent. You don't break a vase and put it back together again and have it be perfect. It's not. Go to counseling and you'll be fine, honey. Oh, Lord, it's not.
Maybe that's one of the hardest truths about survival. Healing does not always mean returning to who you were before. Sometimes it means learning how to carry the fractures differently. Morgan has laid much of her story bare through her books, Carpenter Road, Sentenced to Silence, and Carpenter Road, The Inadmissible Years. Not to shock people, but to leave evidence behind that she survived. You'll find links in the show notes to all the ways you can connect with Morgan and her books. But before my guests leave, I always ask them 2 questions. Morgan, what keeps you smiling today?
My daughter, my wife, my German Shepherd, my silly horse, Arizona. Heading into spring, we have a pond, and I can't wait to see my snapping turtle.
It doesn't surprise me that Morgan finds safety with animals. After someone survives this level of betrayal, trust can become complicated. So I asked her my one final question. What wisdom would you leave with anybody hearing your story today?
I always like to say, don't set yourself on fire to keep other people warm.
For most of her childhood, Morgan learned that survival meant silence, keeping secrets, keeping peace, carrying pain quietly so other people could stay comfortable. But somewhere along the way, a little girl who once believed she had no choice became a woman willing to stand in courtrooms, write books, confront systems, and tell the truth out loud. Not because it erased what happened, not because healing tied everything back together neatly, but because surviving sometimes means finally choosing yourself after years of learning not to. And maybe that's what Morgan meant when she says, don't set yourself on fire to keep other people warm. I'm Heather Holt, and this has been Morgan's story on Change Happened, Then What? Before you go, you'll find resources related to today's story along with links to connect with our guest in the show notes. And now it's time for this week's What Changed Me challenge. Every story we share on this podcast has the power to leave us thinking about something a little differently. So, this week, I want to know, what changed you from today's story? Was it something that was said, a moment that stayed with you, or a realization you hadn't considered before? Head over to changehappenedpodcast.com and click on the What Changed Me Community Challenge button and share what changed you from today's episode. Each month, one listener will be selected to receive official Change Happened, Then What gear. I'd love to hear your thoughts and may even share some listener responses in a future episode. Today's episode was written, edited, and produced by me, Heather Holt, at Holt Hill Studios, with some minor supervision and more than a few interruptions from Waylon and Dalton. Thank you for spending time with us. Until next week, I hope you keep finding your way too.
Without the break.